Where the legends play. Willie 1550 and 98.7. Hello there, I'm Kenny Graves, and on the phone with me right now, one of my favorites, singer, songwriter, and the pride of Beasley, Texas, Mr. Jon Stork. Jon, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Kenny. I think that's the first time I've ever been called the pride of Beasley, Texas. Most of the time I was just the pain of Beasley, Texas. But, man, I love it.
Well, man, I'm glad to have you on. I've started doing more and more independent artists, and I've had my mind on getting you on the phone because we had you twice here at the Texas Birthday Bash. Been a fan since the first time I met you, and you've had such great success since we last talked, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy, and you're such a talent. Thank you for taking the time, brother.
Man, thank you, Kenny. It's been a long time coming, and I know it's been a little while since we got to hang out at the Birthday Bash, and yeah, man, it's been, like I said, it's been a blessing since the last time I've seen you, man. It's just one thing after another and one good thing after another we keep falling into and just keep on working our way through it.
Well, good. We're going to get into all of it, but first things first, Jon, congrats on being a girl dad. How is your beautiful, how is Miss Swayze May Stork?
She is doing great, man. I actually just handed her off to her mama, and she's hanging out in the living room right now, but yeah, we actually just started getting a little sleep around here, so it's pretty amazing. The 3-month-old, she hit that point, and I'll never forget waking up that first morning going, oh, man, I must have slept straight through that last night. And my wife looked at me and said, I'm sorry, did you feed her last night? And I said, no. And she was still over there sleeping, so it's been a couple of good nights so far, and knock on some wood for me because, man, it's been kind of crazy watching her just grow up, and man, I get it now. I get it. All those parents out there that had anything to offer up as far as advice or anything along those lines, I get it now.
Well, you were smart. You had the girl first. Every man should have a daughter because it changes a lot about you and the way you think about things. So big congrats, man. I know you're going to be an excellent dad, and you married well, so you can learn. You can learn from the champ.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, they wouldn't let me go to A&M very long, but you know what? I married an Aggie as soon as I found her, and man, I'm in good hands.
Well, great. Well, also tell me about your good boys, Sully and Taco.
Oh man, no, we're having fun out here on the road. Taco's probably been one of the best road dogs I've ever had, and we're just they're a little jealous of the baby, I can tell you that much.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they take daddy's attention away. But
absolutely.
They look like awesome partners, though. They really do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, Jon, most everybody in your family was musical. So at what age did you start taking that serious interest in music?
Man, I was probably 11 or 12 when I started picking something up. I was the last one out of anybody in my family to actually start gravitating towards music. I was always out with the cows and the chickens and the horses. We grew up in the middle of nowhere, so that's where I was always outside. You couldn't catch me inside the house except for dinner maybe, and that was just how we grew up. And I hit a point. My dad, we were at a function. Everybody, my dad told my brother, "Hey, go get your guitar." And then he looked at me and said, "Show him some pictures of your cows." And I thought, man, I can do this. So I started picking the guitar around a little bit here and there. And my brother asked me one day, where'd you learn how to do that? And I said, I've just been watching you. And so we started playing together. And my brother had a band. My mom was praise and worship leader. Both my sisters sang. And so I grabbed Dad's old guitar that was sitting in the closet, and I never stopped playing. And it wasn't until I was in College Station, Bryan and College Station, going back and forth, living up there and going to school and whatnot, that I actually played out for the first time. I was a couch player for friends and family for the longest time, and I never really went and did anything with it anywhere. One night, a couple of buddies talked me into hopping up on stage, and the rest is history.
All right. That's a good way to start it. Well, how early on did you start writing songs?
I was probably 12 or 13. I don't really have too many of those just because we didn't have access to technology like we do now. Now I record stuff on my phone every day, and I wish I had some of those papers and whatnot from growing up and writing songs down and experimenting with just the songwriting aspect of it. But yeah, I think I was 12 or 13. I know I had a couple of praise and worship songs I think I wrote, and then started writing songs about girls once that came into play, and yeah, it was downhill, man.
Absolutely. Now, Jon, with the songwriting, do you prefer to schedule time to write, or do you like to wait for inspiration?
Both, to say the least. When it flies by you definitely have to grab it. And going back to technology now, like man, I've got lists and lists of ideas and partial songs and voice memos and different melodies and whatnot in my head, and then they just end up coming out into my phone. Or on the other side of that, I definitely schedule, because now with the baby, I have to schedule different times to sit down and write, and making sure everybody's squared away. And Mama's still working, so she just got back into the swing of things, and so for me to be able to work, I need to make sure Swayze's all covered up, and whether or not I have a space in the house or elsewhere to go sit down and write with people or online, or some of the guys I write with are in different states. I've written with a couple of guys in different countries, so it's pretty crazy. But at the same time, we're just blessed to have the option. So yes, I do both. I catch the ideas as they're coming by, or whenever they decide to bless me with their presence, and I definitely schedule at the same time.
Well, I didn't even consider this, but with a 3-month-old at home now, do you sing much Coco Melon?
I do not sing any Coco Melon. We have not gone down that road, but we have been singing a whole lot of Keith Whitley and Black Hawk and Diamond Rio. That's usually bath time. So,
well, 80s and 90s country, that will help her develop and become a much smarter young lady. So
absolutely, man, you hit that nail on the head.
Well, way to go, Dad. Well, where was your very first paying music gig?
Oh man, I want to say I didn't quit my job, and so I was moving around the U.S. I was in sales and business wise. I was moving, training, and doing stuff, and finally, man, that was a God thing. In the back of the room, in the back of the store, I was working by myself one day. I heard "Go Home," and I had some advice from Pat Green. He said, "Go find the worst job you can find and do that until it's time for you to play music." And so I ended up quitting that job. I gave away all my dress clothes, and I was doing pretty good for a 22-year-old. And man, I decided it was just time to go chase a dream before the dream slipped through your hands. And I went and found the worst job I could find. I moved in with family. I couch surfed for a little bit, and I was working at a pizza place. And the gals at the pizza place found out that I could play guitar, and I was washing dishes, and then I ended up waiting tables. And so one night, one of them said, "Hey, he plays guitar." We're all sitting in the parking lot. Everybody's kind of decompressing from their day. And they said, "We know you got it in your truck, so you might as well pull it out and play us a song or two." So we were sitting in an empty parking lot at the end of the night, and that empty parking lot guitar picking ended up getting me the next day. They said, "Hey, we're going to have you play on the patio. Everybody will come out. We'll sell a bunch of beer. We'll sell a bunch of pizzas." And so that was my first paying gig that I had ever had since I started, pursuing music.
Well, not a bad gig. I've heard worse, man, for sure.
Yeah, there are definitely worse ones that I've played. I just didn't get paid for them. So, but it was fun, man. It was fun. I'll never forget that. I think I played the same 2-hour set twice to fill up the 4-hour slot. I think I just started over and played the same songs twice.
Well, after a little more adult lubrication, we'll say. So the captive audience probably got louder as it went, so that's okay.
Oh, it was great. It was fantastic. They all had a great time. They didn't even know they sang some of those songs twice.
That's right. So win-win. Now, Jon, your first EP, In Your Radio, came out in 2017. So what did you learn from that first time in the studio working on that project?
Man, there's probably too much that I learned between then and now, and just reflecting back on it. Too much to be said in one phone call, I can tell you that much, Kenny. But, man, just the atmosphere. I think the one thing I did learn that sticks out the most was I love doing this and getting to translate, because when you write a song, it's very seldom the same song that you had come out that actually gets put down in the studio. So translating what you were thinking and how you heard that song come out, I think that's my favorite thing that I learned and still working on and still, honing in. But being able to take what you hear in your head and then you got to use your words, as difficult as it may be for a homeschool kid from Beasley, Texas, but figuring out this is what I was hearing here, this is what I was doing there, and really driving the song home for not only yourself, but for the people that are going to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first full studio album, Radio Cowboy, that's the first one I had. That came out in 2019. All these #1 hits, and suddenly you're a Texas music headliner. So how was that time for you as that career was really starting to skyrocket?
Man, it's been, again, nothing short of a blessing, because I really didn't think, I didn't know what was going to happen. I had these songs and I wanted to share them with other people, and I figured, if any of these resonated with myself, there's got to be a few more people out there that they might resonate with, and just continuing to write and continuing to grow. It feels kind of crazy to have listened to so many people that you play on the radio, and the guys that I grew up listening to, and now to have their cell phone numbers and to be able to call them, when I need some advice, or just to call them to, kick around the ball for a little while. It's pretty unreal, to say the least. It's a lot of fun. At the same time, it's more work than anybody will ever know. But man, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's a fact. That
is a fact, man. And wise words, man. Thank you for that. Now, Jon, your sound is known as Rocky Tonk. So how would you describe that?
Man, I grew up with a brother who didn't listen to country at all, who listened to, Tom Petty and Journey and Rush and all of these classic bands that I heard in one ear, and then I was listening to a tape deck in a tractor that my dad would put me in to go shredding and whatnot in the other ear. So we were listening to I think the tape deck and the box of cassettes came with the tractor, because my neighbor was like, they don't even make tape decks anymore for my truck that I just got, so you can have the tapes too. So just listening to George Jones, really early George Strait, Don Williams, Gary Stewart, and just the list goes on. And then having the opposite of that, and the Rolling Stones and all these other bands from my brother. I think the best way to describe it is country, where country meets genres that I grew up with. and just I feel like I went to the buffet of music when I finally started getting off the ranch and branching out and going places and listening to things and kind of becoming my own person. I just kind of went to that music buffet and took a scoop of everything. And, Rocky Tonk is a mix of everything I grew up with. Guitars and melodies and stories and then some more guitar on top.
I like that. Like a gumbo of great music, all genres.
Absolutely, man. That's very well put. Mark Chestnut would be happy to hear that one.
As he would. Yes, sir. You bet. Now, Jon, you're a true road warrior. You've played shows from Montana to the Troubadour in Los Angeles and from Tennessee to Billy Bob's Texas. Do you have a favorite venue or event that you've played?
Man, Billy Bob's is going to be hard to top during this conversation. I don't know. We'll have to come back and revisit the list. But, I mean, playing the Troubadour in West Hollywood was unreal. Even thinking about it right now, it still seems like a dream, and it happened so fast the whole time we were there. I mean, getting to play Buck Owens' Crystal Palace in Bakersfield wasn't too bad either. That was pretty fun. But you go up the Northwest, and that was probably the most fun with any crowd that I've ever played for or to. The people in the Northwest were something I'll never forget, being the first time we've ever been in that area. So all that being said, I do have to come back home, bring it back to Texas, and say Billy Bob's Texas was amazing this past year, and I'm looking forward to going back whenever that may be. And we're definitely working on more and more of the new music and getting back into places like that.
Glad to hear that. Now, let's take Nashville, Tennessee out of the equation. No Ryman and no Grand Ole Opry. Other than that, what show or event is on your bucket list to play?
Man, I've always wanted to play Red Rocks. As crazy as it might sound, I love Colorado. I got married up in the mountains of Colorado. But Red Rocks Amphitheater right outside of Denver is going to be one heck of a time when that comes.
I'm sure that'll happen too. Hey, good one. I haven't heard that one on a bucket list yet. Moving on, Jon, your most recent single is called First Time. So talk about that track.
Yeah, I actually started writing that song with my buddy Jake Doucette up in College Station, and we hit a point and we kind of decided we needed to put it down, go grab some lunch, and we'd come back to it. And next thing I knew, our friend Jake Worthington heard a little piece of it and said, "Oh, you guys got to let me in on this." So we ended up writing it, all three of us, and I was actually in Oklahoma when Jake Worthington and Doucette finished it up, and they sent me a work tape of it before I went on to play, and I couldn't stop listening to it. I listened to it the whole way to the venue and the show, and then I listened to it afterwards, and then I listened to it the next day driving home. But it's just all about having a good time. And I remember living in College Station. We were talking about first times things happened, and I remember the first time I got pulled over by campus police. I can tell you that much. And I remember the first time I drank a little too much, and I definitely remember the first time I stared a little too long. But it's just all about those first times, and it could be other firsts for you. But I hope at least one of those things brings up a memory, hopefully it makes you smile or chuckle a little bit. But I thought this is just too much fun even thinking about to not put into song and to not share it with other people.
Well, since we're talking about first times, let me throw this in there, Jon. Where were you the first time you heard your music on the radio?
Oh, man. I got a phone call. I was down here, but the first time I heard it on the radio, it was over the phone because they weren't playing it anywhere around Houston or any of the surrounding cities. It was up in Corsicana, Texas, up at the ranch, 106.9 The Ranch in Corsicana, Texas. And they called me, but somebody I knew called me and said, "Did you know that In Your Radio is in my radio right now?" And I said, "No, quit messing with me." And sure enough, it really was.
Well, that's a great feeling for any artist. That's a milestone. So good. That was a good story too. So when's the next album due to drop?
The next, well, we actually just released what we had in December, Fast Horse with First Time and a bunch of other songs I really enjoy and loved writing. And I'm actually waiting on some more new music for another EP that's going to be coming out this year. I don't necessarily have a date. I was actually just talking to the boss about this. My wife was like, "Well, when are you going to put it out? Because people need to hear this stuff sooner than later." And, man, this is the best. The next thing is it's always supposed to be, but I can say with full confidence, this is the next thing is the best thing that I have, period. So I'm still picking out a date just to make sure we have everything squared away. All the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But it will be this year, and I'm going back into the studio this year as well to record another full-length album. And we've got a handful of songs picked out for that already. And I'm just, man, I'm happy to be here. At this point, I keep bumping into good things, and we just keep on growing and growing forward.
Well, I've got a great question here, Jon. When you were a young guy selling yard eggs for gas money in high school, did you ever picture being where you're at right now?
Absolutely not. I don't think any of my teachers thought it. I don't think any of my classmates thought it, and I am the one that I really could not have seen this coming at all. And honestly, it's because my wife. I knew that I wanted to do this. I did not have the faith in me that she did, and she said, honestly, you should just go do this. And she's the one that kicked me off the ledge straight out. She put her foot right on my back and went, "All right, let's see if you can fly." And, man, it's amazing. But, I've just been blessed to have her by my side this entire time, and we've grown this thing together. And she's been an inspiration for a few songs, and I mean that in the best way of all the good songs, all the ones that aren't about tearing out of town or any of that crazy stuff. But she's been the one that's helped me stay on track and grow this thing 1 month, one show, one step at a time.
All right. Best answer ever. I'll give that one 2 thumbs up. Jon,
I appreciate it.
Is there anything you want to touch on I might have missed?
No, man, I think we covered some ground, Kenny. That was great. You, hands down, you call me anytime. I'll hop on the radio with you. And next time we can just take some questions. I don't know what else there would be. We touched on the pets. We touched on the shows. We touched on the baby. I mean, everything is good to go.
I like to hear that, Jon. Where can fans keep up with you and that ever-rising career?
Man, best place to start is jonstork.com, Jon, Stork like the bird, STORK. And social media is it's always getting more fun. I've been a little disconnected just with the baby here and me wanting to be connected while I'm home, but I'm always getting updates out, and my wife's making sure that I keep everybody in the loop when it comes to shows and even some of the stuff about Swayze. So you never know what you're going to get on my social media or who you're going to see. So
very true. He even laid in some denim shorts in a bed of blue bonnets. I guess that was last year. You never know.
It was.
You never know with Jon Stork. I mean, he's a great guy and a great artist, sir.
No, thank you so much, Kenny. I appreciate you, man.
Matt, the pleasure was mine. It's good and overdue to have you on here finally, and glad you took some time for us, brother. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, and let's do it again sooner than later. How about that?
I love the sound of it. Everybody, check him out. For the great Jon Stork, I'm Kenny Graves on Willie 1550 and 98.7.